Substance abuse is one of the fastest ways to lose children into the CPS system. And I've dealt with so many, and while recovery, part of recovery, from what I'm told by the experts, is obviously relapsing, right?
Mm-hmm.
The courts, that's a really big problem if you want to get your children back, because while a criminal court may see relapsing as part of the process, and I've seen a lot of judges, I do criminal defense too, so I've seen a lot of judges, my clients, let's say he's in a program and he falters, I've seen a lot of judges not put him in jail. But a family court judge, if a parent relapses, I can't ask that judge to give the children back, because the judge is going to say to me, and I've done this 1,000 times, they're looking at the point of view is, why am I putting these children back to the home with someone who still has an issue?
Right.
That's the biggest problem when it comes to
And I've been there,
abuse.
and that's why it was so hard. When I tell you it was so hard to get my kids back after losing them that second time, it was almost impossible.
Have you had a lot of, because we've heard it here and there, so people aren't relapsing, but they're on Suboxone or methadone or something, and because they are on MAT medication, they can't get their kids back?
No, I only represent, so we have to, there's really two worlds that, in the CPS world, and it's unjust for the lack of a better term, but there are the people that can afford to hire lawyers and the people that cannot.
Right.
So while I know many public defenders who were excellent themselves, I know them personally, I've dealt with them, they're fantastic attorneys, they simply don't have the time.
Right.
So I only work for people, and this is the realism of the practice and the field, I only work for people that I can afford to pay me. And people ask me, well, somebody has a deep substance abuse problem. I said, I've had family members. So when I get involved, I don't allow CPS to do things that another attorney may do because they're too busy. I'm always on top of them, because the way to fight CPS is to always be on top of them. But a public defender can't do that. They have 180 cases. They have, I don't have that. I have clients that pay me who all have my cell number, who all text me. So it's a different world.
Sure.
But with those kinds of drugs, when somebody's on these maintenance regimens, methadone and stuff, it's been fine on my end. And that hasn't been an issue, because you're not necessarily going to get off of those, right? I mean, that's going to be
It depends. It's all based on.
I did. Both Kyle and I got off of our maintenance meds.
wow.
Yeah.
You don't hear that a lot. You don't.
Right,
I see a lot of lifelong maintenance people.
Yeah. So what are the main things that you see on the day-to-day whenever it comes to CPS? I've from checking out your videos, I know a lot of it is people talking to CPS when they probably shouldn't have, but what else is there?
That is the golden ticket. That is the fuel that powers CPS.
Yep.
That is their oxygen, how they breathe.
Right.
When a parent says, I'm not speaking to you, I have the right to counsel, and here's my attorney, there's nowhere legally for CPS to go. Because the Family Court Act in New York and everywhere else, there's no requirement that parents speak to CPS. It's not there. It's not there in the law. And I always remind people, it is the law that allows CPS to come to your door. If it was a stranger, you would just kick him out. But people have the fear, they're from the state. So speaking to, I got a call from an attorney, humongous law firm attorney, a major lawyer. This woman is highly competent. She was a former fellow prosecutor, and she was dealing with CPS. And I said, the first thing is, don't speak to them. And because people have this idea that they can negotiate, they can strategize, they can manipulate, they can argue, they can deal with CPS.
Sure.
You can't. You don't have the tools as a lay parent to deal with CPS, and parents' own innocence works against them.
If they aren't doing anything wrong, they're going to be an open book.
They say, oh, I'm not doing anything wrong. Yeah, so I have, my husband works. Oh, he loves his Miller Lights. He's been drinking since he was, 17. And at night, I let, my wine. Do I drink? Oh, my wine. I take the edge off after a long day.
Yep.
Those go in reports that says you're alcoholics.
Like for me, I admitted that I had postpartum depression in my interview with them. They took that and they thought that because my daughter was dropped on the floor by another one of my children as a baby, they thought that I intentionally did whatever to my daughter, when in all reality, not the case.
It was an accident.
Right.
Yeah.
And accidents can't happen in their eyes.
No, to CPS, there's
Right.
a mythical perfect parent. That perfect parent never, no accident ever happens with the children. My son during COVID snapped his arm completely in half on a bike ride.
Wow.
And I was at my ex-wife's house. It was so happened I was there. And it was COVID, so she said, I'm going to take him to his friend's house to ride a bike. This kid needs to get out. I said, all right. I was sitting in her backyard, having a wonderful cigar, enjoying some Frank Sinatra. And I get the phone call, you know, that frantic phone call you get?
Right.
I get to the parking lot and his arm is snapped in half. Completely. This is COVID. There's no
Right.
hearing. And all I thought of was, I was like, all right, there's witnesses. The cops are here. The cops saw me arrive. I didn't do anything. Right? That's what I'm thinking. But no, but the CPS, we have to understand what's behind CPS. It's simply funding. It's 400,000 children in foster care every year, 10,000 in New York City. The budget for CPS in New York City is more than all of the courts in New York State.
That doesn't surprise me, though.
Listen to that again. The budget for one agency. There are
Wow.
71 counties in New York State. There's 71 courthouses, right? They use less money than CPS does. The money that CPS gets flows, and every year, but it flows from a place of goodness, because they'll go to the senators and congressmen and they go, do you guys want to prevent child abuse?
Sure, yeah.
Every congressman, it's not a sort of some sort of evil intention. It's, yeah, let's fund children who are being abused. Every congressman will vote for that, right?
Sure.
Because most of them are parents anyway. I would vote for it if I was a congressman, right?
Right.
But the way it's put into practice is, if you've been through it, you know if you've been through it, like, you're an expert. You know all the tricks.
Is this true that they get money when they remove a child, like a bonus?
No, I haven't seen individual CPS workers get a bonus like a car dealer, gets a bonus for selling you the car. That I haven't seen it, and I don't believe that happens. They
But
get
as
salaries.
an agency.
The funding.
Got it.
Funding. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's not a bonus. The law says when a child enters foster care, they get therapy, they get Medicaid, so you unlock all these benefits that flow. And the foster care agency gets paid. That's $1,000 a month. The foster care parent gets paid. But these are necessary fees if it was the right thing, right?
Right.
This is what you need to put a child in foster care. That's just reality. But no, not the workers themselves. Mm-hmm. But they have the workers themselves operate on every parent must be blamed for something. We have to put something on you. First, if they can remove the kids, which in New York City has gotten harder,
Sure.
We'll try to remove the kids if we can. If we can't, we'll put you in useless services. That's how they operate. And to them, it's about every case they have to catch some fish.
So there's no give in that? Like, if they don't catch somebody, what happens? They're just not doing their job, or?
The power with CPS is in the middle supervisors. So my case is I'll say no. I just put up a video yesterday. I have a new ACS case. The ACS, it was so stressful because I was sitting in a hearing doing something else. And then the ACS worker went to my client's house. And I said, I'm recording every single thing that you do. Everything you do, we're recording. She goes, you don't have my consent. I said, I don't need it. Ask your lawyers. And I put the video up, and it's the first time in 20 years that a CPS worker has said that to me. She texted it to me saying he's not allowed to record me talking about my client in his own home.
Wow.
And it's up right now. And I catch them and I say, but the way to beat them, the way to fight to protect yourself is to record them and let them know you're not going to play along. But thousands of parents every day say, I was scared or I had nothing to hide. And that's not the path to go to. That's not the path to go.
So what happens? Because my wife, she used to do foster care licensing, so she was not really in the dealing with the kids like crazy phase or anything like that. But she would talk about a lot of the CPS workers would go with police officers whenever it came to taking kids and stuff like that. What, like, is there any room where the parent can still get away if there's a police officer involved?
Well, they don't know. They don't only take them when they're removing children. They take them to try to get access to the apartment to intimidate parents. CPS uses the police in two ways. One, if they don't get access, I've had it happen a million times. I'm on FaceTime with my clients, right? This goes back to I have the time to deal with them. My legal aid friends are in court from 9 to 5. They have 100 cases. But
Right.
I'm on the FaceTime with my client because he can afford to pay me. That's the reality.
Right.
And I say, no, you're not getting access. I show them the children. The children are fine, and they come back with police officers. And that's fine with me. I was a prosecutor for 6 years. I said, how you doing, officer? We will not be giving you access. Please get a warrant if you desire. But it's not your case. But I know how the NYPD works. I represent them too. So
Okay.
I know what they're doing. Because no, it's not the cop's case. It's the ACS worker's case. And in order for her to get a warrant, she has to go, this all gets very technical, she has to go under 1034, and she has to say, and what they have to claim is, we haven't seen the kids, which will be a lie because I've recorded them seeing the kids. And I make videos of that. I say,
So-
record them seeing the kids. That's their big thing.
I'm
Yeah,
here in the state of Massachusetts, and I know that as an attorney, you're familiar with the Jeremiah Oliver case, correct? Where they said, so he was found in a suitcase deceased on the side of the road because DCF and CPS, when they went to touch base with the family said, oh, he's away with his grandparents in Florida. Because they didn't set eyes on him, they got in big trouble here. And things really started to take a different turn for them, that they just can't take parents' word anymore. So that's how they use that power to say, no, I have to lay eyes on that child.
Sure.
And that's fine. I let them see the children. I don't let them speak to the children. But that's also a function of when CPS is required to attack every parent, they're going to lose children just because of that. They don't focus on I walked in like, not that money does not mean, and I deal with a lot of wealthy people. Money does not mean no child abuse, but
Right.
money does mean I walked into an apartment that was $20 million, right? It's a whole different world.
Yep.
The elevator opens up into his apartment. But money means the food is there, the bed is there, the child is not being, there's plenty of money to support the child. And maybe the child isn't the best adjusted kid, but that's not child abuse. Meanwhile, I've had clients, I take on one pro bono case at a time who are really, really, really struggling financially.
Sure.
And I always say, why doesn't CPS take this money and help them?
Right.
And I've asked for help. I've asked for help in so many cases from CPS and they disappear. I've asked for help when my client's 9-year-old autism daughter, who is, there's a spectrum of autism, right? You guys know that, right?
Yeah.
She was severely dysfunctional. So in autism schools cost $90,000 a year in New York City. And the Department of Education kicked her out of the school. They play all these games with funding. So I said to the ACS worker, I was there. My client happened to be a lawyer. She was relatively well off, but she couldn't afford $90,000 a year for a school.
Right.
And I said, I'm glad you're here, to the ACS worker. I said, please get us to school. We need a new school for this child who is severely autistic. Didn't hear from them. Gone. I had another child. He's 15 years old. He drew a picture of this, right? Taking out a whole crowd of people.
Wow.
Got it.
15-year-old boy. You know how that is, right?
Yep.
We've had that.
Right.
We've had that, right?
Right.
I said, I desperately need your help. This child is, and I'm following the dad's orders. I said, this child is severely troubled. Look at what he drew. This is a precursor to Columbine.
Right.
Nothing. There's something called the child center in New York City where they place kids. They don't stop them from going out. My client's 12-year-old daughter was out at 4 a.m. in Manhattan. I assure you, you shouldn't be out at 4 a.m. in Manhattan. I
Right.
Right.
go out at 4 a.m. in Manhattan. I know what happens. Nothing good.
Why do they disappear like this? I mean, I'm sure there are some of the good ones, but can those good ones even get funding? Like, if someone wanted to help you, do you think that they actually could?
If an ACS worker wanted to help me get funding, if the system was designed to help children and parents, absolutely. But it's
Okay.
designed to attack parents.
Right.
There's no money. There's no money in an intact family.
And then also, have you seen this with families where they pit one parent against the other parent?
Oh,
It happens all the time.
oh,
I know that this happened in my case. They
oh.
were saying certain things that were complete lies to the other parent to have us flip on each other.
And ACS will listen to everything you say about your
Right.
ex.
Right.
And then I've made a million videos about this. Your ex may be a scumbag. Your ex may be the worst person in the world. You're talking about the children. So go ahead. Tell CPS how awful your ex is. Then you know what he's going to do? He's going to turn around and tell him how awful you are.
Right.
And then CPS says, wow, these are two horrible people.
Two unfit parents.
Kids are gone.
Right.
I've had it, and I've literally had people in my office go to war. I've had parents in my office who absolutely hate each other. I said, I'm glad you guys hate each other. That's not good for the kid, but my purpose is to save your child from CPS.
Right.
So if you're going to give me a ton of money to help you, and then you guys talk bad about each other, I said, you can hate each other all you want. Just don't tell CPS. And don't argue in front of your child, please. And what you said it's almost every day. It's almost every day.
Also, with a lot of cases, a lot of people don't know this. When there's an active 51A investigation,
What state are you in?
I'm in Massachusetts,
Oh.
but I've been in multiple states. I've had them involved in New Jersey and Massachusetts. But when there's an active investigation, they can go to that child's school without your consent, correct? And speak with that child without you being present. Can you elaborate on that? A lot of people don't know that.
It is one of their biggest weapons.
Right.
And I deal with it. New York City public schools are partnered with CPS. They're their partners, and they will do anything to destroy a parent. So to the point where if you complain to the public school, they will call ACS on you.
Right.
The schools will call CPS on parents who are disputing usually the educational plan with the schools.
The IEP.
Right.
And the schools let him in. The schools simply and they physically let him in because you're not there, right? You're at work. You're right. So somebody asked me, my son's 13. What if CPS? Well, he's 13. I said he's got a phone. I said if somebody from anybody that you don't know comes and speaks to you, you have to call me. That's how it works. But he's 13. He's not 7. 7-year-olds can't stand up to adults. That just doesn't happen.
And one of the biggest things they like to do is they like to give the answer to the way they want the question in the question. Like, oh, so mommy and daddy fight a lot, right?
It's exactly right. And, you know, with the tools we have today, look at us. We're just 3 normal people and we're having a national broadcast because we have an iPhone, right?
Right.
Or
Right.
whatever. We're just normal people and we're recording. This is being recorded. The lives are recorded, right?
Yep.
There's absolutely no reason why if 3 normal people can have this discussion, the state of New York that spends billions can't record conversations with children, right? And the head of ACS was on TV, David Ansel. He was on TV bragging how CPS workers have iPads. In 23 years, I've never seen one.
Really?
I've never seen a CPS worker walk into a house filming. Look, if every cop in the country has a body cam.
That's true. Why? I guess, has anyone lobbied for that to be a thing?
Yeah, the problem with CPS is that they fail forward.
Oh, yeah.
So a child dies in their supervision. They get more money. Imagine being a mechanic that works on a car and you forget to put on the tire and the car crashes. Is your boss going to say, you know what, you deserve a raise?
I hope not. Right.
Nobody screws up their job and gets more money. They do. If you look up Nix Mary Brown, that's her name. That's the only one I want you to look up. Your people, Nix Mary Brown.
Okay.
But there's a million others. Zamir Perkins, Pisana Quinones. These names are emblazoned in my head. They fail. The mayor says we need more training. And this is just New York City, right? Because that's all I know.
Right.
They come in, they give another $1 billion. They get a new commissioner. We always call it, how many bodies does this commissioner have on him? Because they're all equally incompetent. And there's no way to, and I'm on their Instagram, the ACS Instagram account, because they dare not go on TikTok. Because they know what will happen, right? And I respond to they do things like, oh, today is Puerto Rican Pride Day. So they go to the parade to take people's kids, right? People are like, that's great. They're celebrating Puerto Rican pride. Sure, everybody should. They're taking their kids. This is the reality. And this is the nefarious conduct that they do. And then when you get them on the stand, when I cross-examine them, they know nothing. They know nothing. They say nothing. It's really, it's a dysfunctional. I wrote a book. This is the simplest way. I wrote this book, Combating CPS the Manual, right? It's on Amazon. It's free if you have Kindle. It's a very short book because there aren't many things parents can do. The two things you can do is not speak to them about your life. Anything about your life, your addictions, your problems, your fears. They're not your therapist. And record them. I could have just but I get into how people should hire a lawyer and how people can, help each other. But not speaking to them will solve a lot of problems for you. Another thing I want to tell parents is don't waste your time trying to figure out the system. Parents, they come to me, especially high functioning people like yourselves. I can imagine a lot of your followers. The more high functioning somebody is, the more aware of the world somebody is, the worse they do with CPS. CPS is the cop that breaks your taillight and gives you a ticket. You ever see those shows, right, on TV?
Right.
Don't try you just got into 51A. You've been through the ringer, right? You know these terms. We have 30 days. There's all these regulations. And CPS loves it when you say to them, why are they doing that? I change the lexicon. I say to parents, this is no longer on your repertoire. We don't ask why. That's my job. Mm-hmm. They have a million rules that they don't follow. Right. But when parents are focused on why they're doing something, they're doing it. They're doing it to you. And you're trying to figure out why. If the guy's punching you in the face, you're not trying to figure out why. You have to stop him, right?
Right.
So don't waste your time because you're not an expert, because you haven't done 1,000 ACS cases. Because I haven't fixed 1,000 carburetors. I don't know. And people try to Google, right? We have Google now. And it's funny because I'll get these, I'm in Manhattan, so I have a ton of wealthy people. And they'll say to me, oh, I can handle this. I run a company of 5,000 people. Okay. It's not that. It's a different animal. It's a different world.
They like to mentally, physically, and emotionally break you down to the point where you can't think straight.
And they'll do things like give you the wrong court date. Show up late to a meeting, not show up at all to a crucial meeting. Right? That's the tactics that they use. And it's shocking. I was a prosecutor. I've represented cops. I've represented civilians. I've represented everybody. I've dealt with the FBI, every agency you can think of. And I've never dealt with an agency so deceptive. An FBI agent calls me. I was talking to the U.S. attorney last week. She told me exactly what she wanted. She said, give me this or there's problems. That's what she said about my client. And she threatened us. Okay. She didn't threaten us. She gave us two options, X or Y. Right? There's no hiding the ball. If we don't do X, Y is going to happen.
Is there any way to change any of this?
Yeah, there's a solution. Jury trials. Okay. Jury trials for parents in CPS cases.
Which you can request, right?
No. Nobody, as of right now, no state gives parents jury trials.
Wow.
That would solve the entire system. Why?
Yeah.
Because of my cases, in my years, I've had 2 unfit parents. 2. One was a severe alcoholic. The other one was severely addicted to huffing. Huffing, you know what that is?
Yes.
Yeah, which was a bizarre thing in the courts. Nobody understood it at the time. I didn't know about it. I'm used to regular drugs. I don't know about,
Yeah, that's a little different.
Yeah, like you can't, it's illegal. I mean, she bought cases of stuff at Staples and she would huff it.
Right.
So, and she wasn't like nobody's going to arrest you at Staples, right?
Right.
So that was, but other than that, so a jury, right now, none of my clients would be convicted by a jury of child abuse. It simply wouldn't happen.
One of the things that I know that I've been through, psychological evaluations, a parenting assessment, they want that safety plan signed. Can you get into some of those tactics?
All right, the mental health two call it. There's actually 2 psychologists in the courthouse at every courthouse, and they work for the courts. And I've never seen a parent come out of there fine. I want to walk in myself. I'd like to volunteer myself and do it. I asked the ACS lawyer, I said, can I go get a mental health evaluation by your people? I want to see what they come up with. I've never seen a parent, if you're going to get a mental health evaluation, but this all goes back to money.
Right.
Hire your own doctor. A lot of people can't afford it.
So you can hire your own experts.
Right. And well, in my cases, the judge may say, I would like to see a mental health evaluation. I said, all right, I'll send my doctor's credentials to ACS and she's going to get one now. And the credentials of my doctors are way better than the ACS doctors, but my clients can afford to pay them.
Now, what if they say they won't let you? Because I see that in the comments here. Somebody said they wouldn't let me.
I don't have that, so I don't know. I've never been told that in New York State. There's motions you can make. CPS lets you do, CPS will do to you what you let them do.
Okay.
Right.
They will come to your house, look in your underwear drawer. They will do whatever you let them do. And a million times when I'm on home visits via FaceTime, we need to check the children. This is what you hear. We need to check the children for marks. No. You've got a bachelor's degree from City College in philosophy. You know nothing about the injuries of a child. Because what they do, see this scar right here? See this bruise here? Oh, that. My parent. A parent did that.
Where is the power from their end? Like, if you say no, can they start saying, well, this person was defiant, there's a bottle of booze on the top of the fridge, so...
Yeah, their power is to manufacture cases against you, and they'll call you uncooperative. And I tell my guys, we don't not cooperate. We cooperate within the bounds of the law, which is the law that lets them have access to your house.
Right.
One of the things that I was always told, and I was actually told this by my CPS worker, we're trained to come into a house. If we smell strong cleaning agents and stuff like that, like we take notes of that because it's almost like we're looking for a cover up at all corners. So if your house is fresh and clean, that could be a red flag.
Right.
They told me that.
Right.
That's crazy.
I've had, it is every angle that they can find. That's why I was texting that video I just put up of the ACS worker that lied to me about not being able to record. I was texting her the whole time. I said, all of our conversations are being recorded as per the laws of the state of New York. All of the videos are being recorded. The Constitution of the state of New York gives me that right. The case law of the state of New York gives me that right. But again, this is a client that paid me, right? So, right. And I had the time to deal with it. And that's one of the real problems because, and sometimes people will hire lawyers that don't know this stuff. This isn't the area for your mother's real estate lawyer.
Right.
This is not a DWI that can be handled in court. And it's so funny, but here's the power of CPS. I have 2 friend attorneys who are monster litigators, federal organized crime murder trial lawyers. If you were in a jam, these are the guys you want next to you. Okay. These are they both get involved with an ACS case. And these are guys that have done federal trials, faced off with the federal government, murder trials. These guys have done legit murder trials for organized crime. There's no one better. I don't want to say their names. I don't know if they want me talking about them, but they're superb. They're my mentors, right? They're a little older than me. I've always looked up to them. They're crying on the phone to me.
They could break anyone mentally. Anyone.
So they got wrapped up in a case. I go, why did you take this case? He goes, the guy calls me and then he lies about what time he's coming and then he screws up my whole schedule. I was like, because they're used to dealing with prosecutors, detectives. I was like, this game is totally different. And I always laugh and I was like, look at this. The great one is sitting here crying on my phone because ACS abused us. They're here to abuse. And I think about this. If you're just a parent, they're not trial lawyers, right? My friends thought that they could, get into it with the ACS workers. They have a totally different model. It's to abuse, deceive, and attack.
What are some ways they do try and back these things up in court? Because, like, if they are saying because there's one bottle of booze in the house, they have to be alcoholics or a bruise on.
Oh yeah, they'll just, nothing happens to them when they lose. They don't face juries. They don't care. CPS workers have no incentive to win or lose. So they simply say it.
And it just turns into a numbers game.
That's it. They just walk into court and they say to a judge who they've seen a million times, they say, oh, yeah, there was a bottle of alcohol and she told me she drinks every day. There you go. They just say it. And now you have to put your client on the stand to tell them, that was my grandfather's bottle of alcohol that he brought over after his 80th birthday party. Right? These are all things that we live with.
Sure. They literally brought one of my children to the doctor while my child was in custody, got a diagnosis, and fed the doctor the info for fetal alcohol syndrome to be diagnosed. When I got that whole thing reversed, because I brought my child to a different doctor, and I never drank during my pregnancy. If I drank, I would have admitted it. I've admitted to anything else.
Right.
It's a field of deception. And that's, I have one where we have the petition. That's how they charge parents. It says, medical personnel said this was child abuse. We still don't have the name. Because I have another partner I'm doing the case with. We still don't have the name of the doctor who's saying this is child abuse. Because it's medical abuse, right?
Sure.
And then there's, they have their, one thing I want to make your team people aware of is the child study team, child abuse study team. Okay. Every major hospital has one. Be very careful of these people because they're hammers looking for nails. You ever hear that before?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I go to the doctor, like when my son broke his arm, we went to the ER and the surgeon was there. And what happened, he fell on the bike and broke his arm. There was no child study team there. I was ready. Right. My ex-wife's freaking out. I'm just figuring out the legal schematics of what's going to happen. But often, because my son was 10 years old, he could articulate that he fell off his bike, right? Yeah. And his friends were there. But you take a 2-year-old with a head injury, you go to the hospital, like Take Care of Maya. You ever see that special? That Netflix special? So he fell off the couch. My son fell off the bed when he was 8 months old. It was a really high bed. And then you go to the hospital and the child study team will say, it couldn't have happened that way. This is child abuse.
That's what happened to me.
And you're off. You're off to the races.
Right. Because it was a newborn baby, there was nobody to advocate. The only other one home was a 2-year-old. They didn't think that my 2-year-old could pick up a preemie and drop it on the floor and drop his sister.
What did she pick up?
So my little,
her baby.
So my 3-year-old, while I was making a bottle, I turned around. He grabbed his sister, and as I was walking back, he dropped her on the floor. And that resulted in a closed skull fracture. The first hospital, no big deal, mom. Accidents happen. Doesn't make you a bad parent. Had to get transported to Children's Hospital. Within 10 hours, I was brought into a room with 20 detectives and told that I was a monster and wasn't allowed to see my kids. Removal of both children. Immediate removal.
Based on the fall?
Based on the fall, right.
That's the classic.
And because I said that I had postpartum depression, and it was in my records from birth, and that I was on medicated assisted treatment and I was prescribed benzos, they took everything and they just...
Like all the stuff you're saying, what you just said is just bells. It just sets off all these bells. You don't, you don't say, you say one Once you're a target, you say one thing. I want a lawyer.
From that situation, that really made me learn never, ever talk to them anymore about
Never
anything
speak to
personal.
anybody from the state that comes to you.
Right.
If the IRS calls you, don't speak to them. Trust me, I've been there. Right?
Gotcha.
IRS
See,
called me. I got a lawyer. Right? Because I don't know. I'm a criminal defense lawyer. I do ACS. I don't do tax law.
right.
Yes.
I don't know. I got my tax lawyer buddy. He handled it.
What
If the
happens?
EPA comes to your house, don't talk to him.
What happens in this circumstance? I have a friend that wanted me to ask this question. So she had to bring her daughter to a hospital for a reason, but then ended up in the middle of the investigation. Her children's father lives in another country. She upped and just moved to the other country. Never got a letter saying that case was closed, and lives in fear.
She took the kids with her?
Mhm.
Well, they may be worn out for the kids or her.
How would she check that though? How do you check? So you cannot leave,
You
correct?
can't find that out, right?
Well, if you leave during if you leave during an investigation,
Right.
maybe not. But if you're in the middle of an actual court case where there's future court dates and you don't show up on those court dates, and then the children are in another country, which I've had, they went to Africa. That's going to be a warrant. And these parents that I've seen came back from Africa thinking they were in the clear because they took their kids to Africa, but they got
Right.
arrested at the airport. So
See,
leaving like that is not a good. It's not a good idea.
so
Because
do
then if
you
you come
reach out?
back, the court's like, oh, this guy runs away.
Right. So just have her reach out and find out about that letter. Like is it? And she doesn't even know if it's an open case. She never got nothing after that initial
Right.
speaking to them.
She should have somebody contact, not her. Should have somebody
Right.
contact the
I told
state.
her to have an attorney contact the state
Yeah,
on her behalf.
That'd be the best way to do it.
What about separating siblings? Because my children were separated in foster care. Like that causes so many problems for the family. I still am dealing with the repercussions of them separating siblings.
We have that with our neighbor right now because the older sister got sent back to the mom, the bio mom, and they have the younger sister, but it's like a totally different world. And it's been years.
Right.
There's no money in intact families. There's no money in healthy children. That simply means more funding because there's going to be more therapy needed.
And it breaks my heart because I'm so working hard to make sure that my kids have the right mental health services in place. Like it breaks my heart what they could do to a family. It does.
It's every day. And we have shelters here for single mothers in New York City. To them, it's like the single shelter is like you never see when like a shark finds a whale carcass and just eats the whole thing. That's what it's like. It's a feeding frenzy.
I get a lot of people that are homeless that are just starting out their recovery journey. They're always scared to go to a shelter because they're like, no, that's going to be an automatic call. Like they're going to
Yep.
say that I'm unfit.
They're
So,
not wrong. That
right.
happens. That happens often. And they
So,
can't defend themselves. They're dealing with substance abuse issues. They're dealing with lack of funds. Dealing with it is horrific. And I remember once I had a woman come to me, and she had 4 children removed, and I said, "That's going to be a lot of money." So I told her how much it was, and I'm thinking this woman lives in a shelter. Oh, I didn't tell you the story, Mel. I didn't know she won the lottery.
Oh, wow.
oh,
Comes into my
wow.
office. Yeah.
I was wondering how she was.
She calls me from the bank and she goes, "How do you spell your last name?" Because it's kind of hard. I gave it to her. She comes in here with a bank check, certified. So I'm looking at her going, "What?
What has happened here?
Yeah, what is happening?" And she'd had a rough life. And she goes, "Oh, I just want to make sure you were real. I won the lottery, so I'm good." I said, "Oh, okay. Well, it's time for us to go to war."
See, and this just has me all scared because I'm fairly ignorant to this stuff. And we just had a situation with my son who was split between me and my ex-wife, and it got serious. DCFS got involved, and
How old
cops
is he?
got involved. He's 12. So it's a big issue, still a lot of things going on, but just the other weekend, my mom took him to the trampoline park and he hurt himself. He's the type, he's acting crazy all the time, so of course
Are you and your ex at odds?
we are getting better, but yes,
Well, tell her I
100%.
said this. Whatever you guys want to fight about, it's fantastic. Go fight about it. Do not speak to CPS because they'll take the kid. So if she wants her kid removed, it'll happen.
And she
So
already
stay.
has. I know she already has.
Yeah.
But I fortunately, whenever they called me, I was working, and then I called them back and haven't heard anything. And I'm so glad they have not called me back at this point because I would have screwed up.
Tell her I said if you want this kid removed, keep. I was like, you yell at each other all you want.
Just
But don't ever speak to CPS. And because somebody just wrote, you never want an outsider making decisions. Yeah, they will. Then all of a sudden you're sitting in front of a judge and you're hearing, she said, oh my God, Kyle is such a dirtbag. He does this. And then they'll read the reports and Kyle said that she's really bad.
yep.
And that judges are just people, right? They're
Right.
just us. So they sit on a court and they go, oh, I got two crazy people here. And there's a 12-year-old who's really troubled. Okay, he's going off to grandma's house permanently.
How normal is that too, that they end up putting the kids with a family member? I know they try to, but a lot of times it doesn't happen.
Or the
It
family
happens.
doesn't want to get involved, like my family. That is one of the biggest things that I see happen. The family wants nothing to do with helping out.
I've seen that a lot. I've also seen people that just don't have local family.
Yeah.
They're in Cleveland or what. I've seen foreigners here. Because this is Manhattan, right? There's a lot of international people here.
Yep.
I've seen families. I saw a couple that had they had no family here. It was just them. So, but a lot of times family they don't want to, or there's not enough of
Right.
them. And then the foster care system itself there's no such thing as, Texas is getting fined $100,000 a day right now because it's so dysfunctional. But what they can't give up, what CPS can't give up is the funding.
Right.
So if you have jury trials solves everything. All we need is one politician to bring up jury trials. CPS will never bring 80% of the cases to trial because they're not real cases.
Right.
Fewer kids will be removed and there'll be fewer. And then the federal government, and the government, if you don't use your funding, they take it away. That's how government works. When I was a prosecutor, we got a $500 bonus. And I said, why are we getting a bonus? We're just prosecutors. My boss said we had extra money. If we didn't use it, they would take it away next year.
You are definitely onto something here with that. I agree with you.
It's a simple solution. But you think about this. If I hit you with my car and I break your leg, you get a jury trial, right?
Yep.
If the cops accuse you of a crime, a jury decides your fate. But if I'm trying to take your 12-year-old kid, you don't get a jury.
I'm curious where this money is going to, because like I said, my wife no longer works in foster care licensing because the money was crap. So they aren't getting funding, and where's it all going? 'Cause
Therapists,
they're in
administrative salaries,
Services, the big S. Service plan.
useless services throughout community, especially minority communities.
Sure.
With these, I call them these services pimps. There's these organizations that will, and it's different for me because I don't deal with my clients pay me, right?
Right.
So I'm only dealing with a certain type of people throughout New York City, and I'm in a wealthy city.
Right.
But in a poor city, these people are put in services who are just, and they're there to make, and they are ridiculous. I had a guy in the stand from services once who was lying about my client, and I said, "What?" I was like, "Your qualifications are that you had a rap album come out? Is that what you're saying?" His name was what was his name? Oh, he had a great street name, but he was a fraud. He was a complete fraud, and there's so much fraud going on, and I just had it's really shocking. But they don't have, a lot of people, lawyers don't have the time.
What do you recommend? So this is something that was one of my biggest obstacles throughout my DCF. So one of my children has severe global developmental delays. So when you ask her certain questions, she can't answer those questions accurately. And it always bit me. Always came to bite me in the ass because of that. Because like they would go to school and try to talk to her behind my back. And it's like when they with their tactics they'll be like, oh, so and so did that, right? Like it's the ways they're not dealing with like a typical child. How do you protect yourself when it comes to stuff like that with somebody that really doesn't understand the question being asked?
Well, the Kevlar for parents is getting a letter from a real doctor about your child's condition.
Okay.
And I always tell parents it's so funny. This gets back to, again, the time. So my client is a administrator, and her daughter's 2 years old, and she had somehow she had a black guy. She's
Okay.
2. She runs around. They're maniacs, right?
Right. Kids are crazy.
So I get the letter from the pediatrician. They take us to court. I said, this letter from the pediatrician says he's fine. And the court goes, oh, we want you to go to another pediatrician.
An expert. They want like a developmental pediatrician.
I said, okay. So I found, I know this woman who's a witness in one of my trials. So I got her, same letter. I was like, okay, so are we dismissing? Yeah. And then it goes on, and they're just very nasty people. And then last week we got the email, and we're dismissing the case after torturing this family. But it took me and my partner Dave Zaslowski is a lawyer on TikTok that I work with on CPS cases. It took me and him, days of, and it was expensive, right? That's a huge problem. That's a huge problem, because even with criminal defendants, I was a prosecutor for 6 years, everybody gets a jury. No matter how poor you are, right, you still get to have a lawyer in court with you in front of a jury. And that's the equalizing effect, because what juries do is they sanitize cases. And what do we mean by that? When I was a prosecutor, me and my bosses would always have conversations. What's the jury going to say? The jury the community members will always temper, and they temper both sides. If you could, a defense lawyer with a client who's got some issues, you can't go in front of a jury and get crazy. They will punish you. Right. And if you're a prosecutor with a very weak case, you can't go in front of a jury. Plus, there's a human element. You get embarrassed. There's an embarrassment element of watching 12 people laugh at you, which I've had. And I've watched people get laughed at.
Is there any way, whenever you end up going through, like, who knows what your kids just got put through, going through one of these cases, you had to pay a shit ton of money to a lawyer. Is there any way to go after CPS to get
there is. It's very, very complicated. It's very difficult. And most lawyers that sue the city, because lawyers like to sue the cops and, personal injury guys, sure, it's very, very difficult to do, because most lawyers don't understand the CPS process. So when most lawyers hear family law, if they don't do family law, right? Because no matter who you are, you have family issues, right? Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter who you are. Everybody's got family issues, and everybody, as soon as they hear family stuff, they go, oh God.
So I have to say,
like my uncle.
I just found a bruise on my knee. How did it get there? But see, I'm an adult, but
how did the bruise on your knee get there?
Right, is somebody gonna...
You're probably abused as a child.
And that's the thing. Like for my daughter, when you ask her questions like that, she doesn't know the answer half the time, because she doesn't even understand the question that's even being asked, period.
Right.
That's even worse, but even me as an adult, I don't remember how I got this bruise. So what if someone can say, well, did Mike put that bruise on you? I mean, I would have no proof. I don't remember how I got this bruise.
You can talk for yourself.
I'm sorry, I just... Right, but when it comes to children...
But as a woman, yeah, you understand where I'm coming from as a mother.
Oh, yeah, I did. My ex-girlfriend, I had a backpack, and she was right behind me. I didn't know she was right behind me. And I turned around, and I hit her in the face. I mean, when I say I hit her in the face, I knocked her out.
Wait, I
And-
can't
Whoa.
picture the situation.
And she had a bruise like this. I wasn't intending to, but think about it.
Right.
But you're also bringing up something like the other issue is you know your children so well. Don't expect CPS to understand your children.
See, that's the problem. That's my fear because I know that those questions can't always be answered accurately. I have a million diagnoses, specialty doctors, all of it. But I still, the trauma and PTSD that CPS and DCF has given me is something that 9.5 years later, I'm still working on in therapy.
You gotta let it
Still.
go.
Yeah.
You have to let it go, and you let it go in this way. And this is the last. This. I have to end this here. I have to get going, but this is how you end it, right? They're dysfunctional, not you. They're responsible for the deaths of kids, not you. So to all the parents who've had CPS traumatize them, let it go. They're the problem. I'm telling you that. They're the problem, not you.